Seventh Day Adventist Higher Secondary School, Shanmugapuram. Hello children, this day will be a very good day for us because we are going to learn new concepts in physics. Today's first topic is electric field due to a uniformly charged spherical shell. Consider a uniformly charged spherical shell of radius r and total charge q is shown in the figure. The electric field at points outside and inside the spherical shell is found using Gauss law. Case 1. At a point outside a shell, that means r is greater than capital R. Let us choose a point P outside a shell at a distance small r from the center as shown in the figure. The charge is uniformly distributed on the surface of the sphere, that means spherical symmetry. Hence, the electric field must point radially outward, that means if capital Q is greater than 0, and point radially inward if Q is less than 0. So we choose a spherical Gaussian surface of radius r is chosen and the total charge enclosed by this Gaussian surface is capital Q. Applying Gauss law, closed integral Gaussian surface E vector dot dA vector equal to Q by epsilon naught. Children, last topic we studied about Gauss law. So see the diagram children. For points outside the sphere, a large spherical Gaussian surface is drawn concentric with the sphere. For points inside the sphere, a spherical Gaussian surface smaller than the sphere is drawn. We should understand this concept from the diagram. So the next is the electric field E vector and dA vector points in the same direction, that means outward normal at all points on the Gaussian surface. The magnitude of E vector is also the same at all points due to the spherical symmetry of the charge distributions. So we'll get E vector close integral dA is equal to Q by epsilon naught. That means close integral dA is equal to total area of Gaussian surface is equal to 4 pi r square. So substituting this value in derivative 1.74, we'll get E vector or E into 4 pi r square is equal to Q by epsilon naught. E into 4 pi r square is equal to Q by epsilon naught, or E is equal to 1 by 4 by epsilon naught Q by r square. And also we'll write this derivative in the form of vector. E vector is equal to 1 by 4 by epsilon naught Q by r square into r cap. The derivative 1.75 shows that electric field is in the form of vector form. That means shows the direction of electric field. So the electric field is radially outward if Q is greater than 0 and radially inward if Q is less than 0. That means it shows that positive or negative charges. From the derivative 1.75 we infer that the electric field at a point outside the shell will be same as if the entire charge Q is concentrated at the center of spherical shell. A similar result is observed in gravitation for a gravitational force due to a spherical shell with mass m. Case B, at a point on the surface of the spherical shell, that means small r is equal to capital R. The electric field at points on the spherical shell r is equal to capital R is given by E vector is equal to Q by 4 by epsilon naught r square r cap 1.76. The derivative, it shows the electric field due to radius r. The next is at a point inside the spherical shell, that means r is less than capital R. Consider a point inside the shell at a distance r from the center. A Gaussian sphere of radius r is constructed shown in the figure. So we'll get the closed integral E vector into dA vector equal to Q by epsilon naught. E into 4 pi r square is equal to Q by epsilon naught, since the Gaussian surface encloses no charge. So Q is equal to 0. The derivative 1.7 becomes E is equal to 0 because there is no charge located on the area. So the electric field due to uniformly charged spherical shell is 0 at all points inside the shell. A graph is plotted between the electric field and the radial distance. This shows the figure. If the distance increases, the electric field decreases, which says by the diagram. One more question can be asked by using this diagram. So we should understand electric field is decreases when the distance is increases. And also we should understand the concepts by reading this note. Gauss law is a powerful technique whenever a given charge configuration possesses spherical, cylindrical or planar symmetry. Then the electric field due to such a charge configuration can be easily found. If there is no such symmetry, that the direct method, the Coulomb's law and calculus can be used. For example, it is difficult to use Gauss law to find the electric field for a dipole since it has no spherical, no uniform body. If there is no uniform body, we can't find out the electric field. Next topic is electrostatic of conductors and dielectrics, in which 1.7.1 conductors at electrostatic equilibrium. An electrical conductor has a large number of mobile charges which are free to move in the material. In a metallic conductor, these mobile charges are free electrons which are not bound to any atom and therefore are free to move on the surface of the conductor. When there is no external electric field, the free electrons are in continuous random motion in all directions. As a result, there is no net motion of electrons along any particular direction, which implies that the conductor is in electrostatic equilibrium. Thus, at electrostatic equilibrium, there is no net current in the conductor. A conductor at electrostatic equilibrium has following properties. First property, the electric field is zero everywhere inside a conductor. This is true regardless of whether the conductor is solid or hollow. This is an experimental fact. Suppose the electric field is not zero inside the metal, then there will be a force on the mobile charge carriers due to this electric field. As a result, there will be a net motion of mobile charges, which contradicts the conductors being in electrostatic equilibrium. Thus, the electric field is zero everywhere inside the conductor. So we can also understand this fact by applying an external uniform electric field on the conductor. This is given the diagram. So we should understand if there is no external force on the electrons or charge carriers, there is no current in the conductor. So before applying the external electric field, the free electrons in the conductor are uniformly distributed in the conductor. When the electric field is applied, the free electrons are accelerate to the left, causing the left plate to be negatively charged and the right plate to be positively charged. Due to this realignment of free electrons, there will be an internal electric field created inside the conductor, which increases until it nullifies the external electric field. Once the electric field is nullified, the conductor is said to be electrostatic equilibrium. The time taken by a conductor to reach the electrostatic equilibrium is in the order of 10 power minus 16 seconds, which can be taken as almost instantaneous. It is very less time. The next point is there is no net charge inside the conductors. The charge must be reside only on the surface of the conductor. We can prove this property using Gauss law. Consider an arbitrarily shaped conductor. A Gaussian surface is drawn inside the conductor such that it is very close to surface of the conductor. Since the electric field is zero everywhere inside the conductor. Children, see that the Gaussian surface of the conductor Q is equal to 0. So no electric field. And next diagram shows that the electric field is along the surface. Electric field is the perpendicular to the surface in the conductor if electric field is applied. So the conductor, the net electric flux is also 0 over this Gaussian surface. From the Gauss law, this implies that there is no net charge inside the conductor. Even if some charge is introduced inside the conductor, it is immediately reaches surface of the conductor. The next point is the electric field outside the conductor is perpendicular to the surface of the conductor and has a magnitude of sigma by epsilon naught, where sigma is the surface charge density at the point. If the electric field has components parallel to the surface of the conductor, then free electrons on the surface of the conductor would experience acceleration. This means that the conductor is not in equilibrium. Therefore, at electrostatic equilibrium, the electric field must be perpendicular to the surface of the conductor, which is given is in the form of diagram. So we'll see. We know the proof that electric field has magnitude sigma by epsilon naught just outside the conductor's surface. Consider a small cylindrical Gaussian surface. One of these cylinder is embedded inside the conductor. So, see children, the diagram, the flux through the Gaussian surface is EA, the electric field due to the charges. So, we'll get, since the electric field is normal to the surface of the conductor, the curved part of the cylinder has 0 electric flux. Also inside the conductor, the electric field is 0. Hence, the bottom flat part of the Gaussian surface has no electric flux. Therefore, the top flat surface alone contributes to the electric flux. The electric field is perpendicular to the area vector and the total charge inside the surface is sigma A. By applying Gauss law, we'll get the derivative EA is equal to sigma A by epsilon naught. E is the electric field, A is the area of the surface, sigma charge density, epsilon permittivity. In vector form, E vector is equal to sigma by epsilon naught n cap. N cap represents the unit vector outward normal to the surface of the conductor. Suppose sigma is less than 0, the electric field points inward perpendicular to the surface. Fourth point, the electrostatic potential has the same value on the surface and inside of the conductor. We know that the conductor has no parallel electric component on the surface, which means that charge can be moved on the surface without doing any work. This is possible only if the electrostatic potential is constant at all points on the surface and there is no potential difference between any two points on the surface. Since the electric field is 0 inside the conductor, the potential is same as the surface of the conductor. Thus, electrostatic equilibrium, the conductor is always at equipotential. Inside both hollow and solid conductors is 0. It is very interesting property which has an important consequence. Consider a cavity inside the conductor. So whatever the charges at the surface and whatever the electrical disturbance outside, the electric field inside the cavity is 0. A sensitivity electric instrument which is to be protected from the external electric disturbance is kept inside this cavity. This is called electrostatic shielding. Very important 2 mark question. What is meant by electrostatic shielding? Understand, children? Keep in your mind. Faraday cage is an instrument used to demonstrate this effect. It is made up of metal bars configured in the diagram. If the electric field, children see that inside the metal electric field is 0. So, which is if any person inside this cage will not affected by the electric charges because inside of cage no electric field. The electric field inside the cavity is 0. Students, this para answer for what is meant by electrostatic shielding. Take notes for 2 marks. Now our next topic is electrostatic induction. In section 1.1 we have learned that an object can be charged by rubbing using an appropriate material. Whenever a charged rod is touched by another conductor, charges start to flow from charged rod to the conductor. Is it possible to charge a conductor without any contact? The answer is yes. This type of charging without actual contact is called electrostatic induction. Point 1. Consider an uncharged, that means neutral, conducting sphere at rest on an insulating stand. Suppose a negatively charged rod is brought near the conductor without touching it. Will shows the diagram. Children, the 4 diagram shows what is meant by electrostatic induction. Diagram A, B, C and D. These 4 diagram shows that is what is meant by electrostatic induction. The negative charge of the rod repels the electrons in the conductor to the opposite side. As a result, positive charges are induced near the region of the charged rod while negative charges on the farther side. Before introducing the charged rod, the free electrons were distributed uniformly on the surface of the conductor and the net charge is 0. Once the charged rod is brought near the conductor, the distribution is no longer uniform with more electrons located on the farther side of the rod and positive charges are located close to the rod, but the total charge is 0. The next point is, now the conducting sphere is connected to the ground through a conducting wire. This is called grounding. Since the ground can always receive any amount of electrons, grounding removes the electrons from the conducting sphere. Note that positive charges will not flow to the ground because they are attracted by the negative charges of the rod. The negative charge of rod is attracted positive charge, so the electrons positive charges are does not flow to the ground, only electrons are repelled to the ground. You should understand. The next point is, when the grounding is or when the grounding wire is removed from the conductor, the positive charge remain near the charged rod. The fourth point is, now the charged rod is taken away from the conductor. As soon as the charged rod is removed, the positive charge gets distributed uniformly on the surface of the conductor. By this process, the neutral conducting sphere becomes positively charged. For an arbitrary shaped conductor, that means not regular shaped conductor, the intermediate steps and conclusions are the same except the final step. The distribution of positive charge is not uniform for arbitrarily shaped conductors. Why is it not uniform? The reason for is discussed later. Now we'll move on the next topic. Which one is next topic? See, students, before we go to next topic, we should understand what is meant by electrostatic induction. And for detailed understanding, we should solve this solved problem 1.19. If you want to more and more understanding concepts, you should solve 1.19 the problem. We'll move on. Next topic is 1.74. What is 1.7.4? Dielectrics or insulators. This topic has 1 mark and 2 mark. A dielectric is a non-conducting material and has no free electrons. The electrons in the dielectric are bound within the atoms. Ebonite, glass and mica are some of the examples of dielectrics. When an external electric field is applied, the electrons are not free to move anywhere, but they are realigned in a specific way. A dielectric is made up of either polar molecules or nonpolar molecules. Nonpolar molecules. A nonpolar molecule is one which centers of positive and negative charges coincide. As a result, it has no permanent dipole moment. Examples of nonpolar molecules are hydrogen, oxygen and carbon dioxide. When an external electric field is applied, the centers of positive and negative charges are separated by a small distance, which induces a dipole moment in the direction of external electric field. Then the dielectric is said to be polarized by an external electric field. So, which is shown in the diagram. That is, next mechanism is polar molecules. In polar molecules, the centers of positive and negative charges are separated even in the absence of external electric field. They have a permanent dipole moment. Due to thermal motions, the direction of each dipole moment is oriented randomly. Hence, the net dipole moment is zero in the absence of external electric field. Examples of polar molecules H2O, N2O, HCl, and ammonia. When external electric field is applied, the dipoles inside the polar molecule tend to align in the direction of electric field. Hence, a net dipole moment is induced in it. Then the dielectric is said to be polarized by external electric field. Children, see the two diagrams. You should understand what is alignment and not alignment. That means what is meant by polarized and non-polarized. Random, if the charges are randomly situated, it is called non-polarized. If it is directed, it is polarized. We move on. The next topic is, see what next topic, polarization. It's very important 2 mark question, and this important 1 mark question. In the presence of an external electric field, the dipole moment is induced in the dielectric material. Polarization P vector is defined as total dipole moment per unit volume of the dielectric. For most dielectric linear isotropic, the polarization is directly proportional to the strength of the external electric field. This is written as P vector psi E vector external, where psi is constant called electric susceptibility, which is characteristics of each dielectric, and that mechanism is electric field is, that means electric field is produced. The magnitude of internal electric field is smaller than that of external electric field. Therefore, the net electric field inside the dielectric is not zero, but it's parallel to external electric field with magnitude less than that of the external electric field. For example, let us consider a rectangular dielectric slab placed between the two oppositively charged plates. The uniform electric field between the plates acts as an external electric field, which polarizes the dielectric placed between the plates. The positive charges are induced on one side surface and the negative charges are induced on other side surface. But inside the dielectric, net charge is zero even in a small volume. So the electric in the external electric field, that means dielectric in the external electric field, is equivalent to two opposite charge sheets with the surface charge densities plus sigma and minus sigma. These charges are called bound charges. They are not free to move like free electrons in the conductors. See children, the diagram, you should understand that mechanism of dielectrics. Oh, the next, for example, the charged balloon after rubbing sticks into a wall. The reason is that the negatively charged balloon is brought near the wall. It polarizes the opposite charges on the surface of the wall, which attracts the balloon, which is shown in the diagram. That means why rubbed balloons are sticked on the wall, because while rubbing the balloon, which produces dielectric. Our next concept is 1.7.6 dielectric strength. When the external electric field applied to the dielectric is very large, it tears the atoms apart so that the bound charges become free charges. Then the dielectric starts to conduct electricity. This is called dielectric breakdown. The maximum electric field the dielectric can withstand before it breakdowns, it is called dielectric strength. For example, the dielectric strength of air is 3 into 10 power 6 volt by meter. If the applied electric field increases beyond this, a spark is produced in the air. The dielectric strength of some dielectric materials shown in the table, you should find the values, may be asked as 1 mark question. The next is, our next topic is capacitors and capacitance. Very important. 3 mark question and 2 mark question. Very important concepts. Capacitors 1.8.1. Capacitors is a device used to store electric charge and electrical energy. It consists of two conducting objects, usually plates or sheets, separated by some distance. Capacitors are widely used in many electronic circuits and have applications in many areas technology. A simple capacitor consists of two parallel metal plates separated by a small distance, as shown in the diagram. So we should understand the concepts of capacitance of parallel plate capacitor. Very important that when a capacitor is connected to a battery of potential difference V, the electrons are transferred from one plate to the other plate by battery, so that one plate becomes negatively charged with a charge of minus Q and the other plate positively charged with a plus Q. The potential difference between the plate is equivalent to the battery's terminal voltage. If the battery voltage is increased, the amount of charge are stored in the plates also increase. In general, the charge stored in the capacitor is directly proportional to the potential difference between the plates. That means Q is directly proportional to V, so that Q is equal to CV. Here C is constant called capacitance. The capacitancy of capacitor is defined as the ratio of magnitude of charge on either of the conductor plates to the potential difference existing between the conductors. Children, this is defined capacitance. Very important 2 mark question. The ratio C is equal to Q by V. The SI unit of capacitance is coulomb per volt or farad. In honor of Michael Faraday. Faraday is very large unit of capacitance. In practice, capacitors are available in the range of microfarad to the picofarad. A capacitor is separated by a symbol or represented by symbol given in the diagram. Note that the total charge stored in the capacitor is 0. Q minus Q is equal to 0. Nowadays, there are capacitors available in various shapes and types. These capacitors are extensively used in various kinds of electronic circuits. See children, that is various shaped of capacitors, size of capacitors. Now we'll see very important 3 mark question and important 2 mark problem, maybe 1 mark question. Capacitance of parallel plate capacitor. Consider a capacitor with two parallel plate, each of cross sectional area A and separated by a distance D, shown in the diagram. Children, see the diagram and understand the concept. There are two plates, minus plate and plus plate. That means positive charge plate, negative charge plate. The electric field between two infinite parallel plate is uniform and is given by E is equal to sigma by epsilon naught. We know what is meant by sigma, surface charge density. Sigma is equal to Q by A. If the separation distance D is very much smaller than the size of plate, that means D square is very less than area, then the above result is used even for finite sized parallel plate capacitors. The electric field between the plate is E is equal to Q by A epsilon naught. Since the electric field is uniform, the electric potential between the plate is having separation is given by V is equal to ED is equal to QD by A epsilon naught. Therefore, the capacitance of capacitor is given by C is equal to Q by V is equal to Q by QD by A epsilon naught. So finally we will get epsilon naught A by D. And also children, if you want more clarification about the parallel plate capacitor, we should understand the note. We should thoroughly read the note. And we comes to the mechanism of parallel plate capacitor. From the derivative 1.84, it is evident that the capacitance is directly proportional to the area of cross section and is inversely proportional to the distance between the plates. This can be understood from the formula. That is, first point from the formula is, if the area of cross section of the capacitor plate is increased, more charges can be distributed for the same potential difference. As a result, the capacitance is increased. If the distance d between the two plates is reduced, the potential difference between the plate V is equal to Ed decreases with the E constant. As a result, voltage difference between the terminal of the battery increases, which in turn leads to additional flow of charge to the plates from the battery till the voltage on the capacitor equal to the battery's terminal voltage. Suppose the distance is increased, the capacitor voltage increases and becomes greater than the battery voltage. Then the charge flow from the capacitor plate is to the battery till both voltage become equal. Children, if we want to understand the parallel plate capacitors in the form of problem, we should solve the 1.20 solved problem. Student, do the assignment timely. Thank you.